Welcome everyone to the Carolinas District of Kiwanis webinar series. And I'm Chris White. I'm a member of the Kiwanis Club Raleigh, and I had the privilege of serving this year as your governor. Our presenter tonight is someone I'm looking out here, and most every one of you probably already know this person, and an introduction is probably not necessary, but our presenter tonight is Governor-elect Joe Crostick. Joe's a native of the Baltimore, Maryland area. He got to North Carolina just as soon as he could, however. He had a 30-year career with KPMG in Baltimore, DC, in the DC area. And he joined the Kiwanis Club of Southport, Oak Island back in 2011. And since his membership, he has been a distinguished past president of the Kiwanis Club of Southport, Oak Island. He has chaired and served and continues to chair and serve on numerous committees in his club. He was a lieutenant governor for Division 26 for 2 years, 2017 to 2019, and in 2018 was named a distinguished lieutenant governor. He's been the Carolinas District Membership Chair, 2018 to 2020, and was the driving force along with Greg McDonald for our club coaching events, which were so popular until COVID-19 hit. This is kind of its replacement, our online webinar series. And we're pleased with the outcome, and we're so pleased that you're here with us tonight. Joe has served on the Education Committee at the Carolinas District level, the Finance Committee. This year, he is chairing the Strategic Planning Committee, which is looking at our February 2018 strategic plan and giving it a thorough review. And he is the perfect person for that job. While a member of the club in Southport, Oak Island, he was instrumental in forming the first action club in that county in Division 26. And he is also instrumental in the formation of the Kiwanis Club of Charlotte, South Brunswick. And as governor-elect, he has been preparing and hard at work to prepare to be our governor next year. And I might just add that our district is in excellent hands next year with Joe Crostick as our governor. So it would be my pleasure at this time to turn over the presentation to Joe to talk to you about service and fundraising during a pandemic. Take it away, Joe.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. I'm going to share my screen.
Oh, bad hair day.
There we go. Okay, well, good evening, everybody, and Happy New Year to everyone. Chris, thank you for, Governor Chris, thank you for that nice introduction. I'll mention later that today I'm just using everybody else's material. This is not me. But thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join us this evening for the webinar. I know that many clubs in the district have struggled over the past 10 months in this pandemic to provide service and raise funds, as our traditional approaches were really taken away from us. What I hope to offer you tonight is hope. It's going to be illustrated by what clubs have been doing throughout the Carolinas who figured it out, and they're making us all very proud. So if your club has not yet emerged from the isolation that was imposed on it, I'm hoping that you'll see a way to start, or at least plan to start getting back out there and doing service and raising funds that will ultimately help and support your communities. There's hardly an original thought by yours truly tonight. The stars of tonight are many of you and your clubs, as well as other clubs throughout the district whose passion to serve their communities has not let COVID-19 stop them from being active and figuring out ways to be there for their community and for the kids. So what I've done is I've scoured the Facebook pages, over 100 of them, I believe, of all the clubs in the Carolinas district that have Facebook pages, at least the ones I could find. And tonight I'm going to share with you the great work that and the effort that's being expended here in the Carolinas by our clubs since the pandemic started. So let's get started. Yeah, there we go. What I'm going to do tonight is talk a little bit about the effects and restrictions from COVID, but I'm going to spend most of my time talking about the creativity of our clubs. This is what I'm so proud of and got so excited about as I started looking through the Facebook pages towards, I guess it was October, November. And then I'll mention a few things about what I've seen as well going around in the Kiwanis world, or as I've heard it called, the Kiwanisverse. But the idea being that I got a few ideas from looking at Kiwanis Magazine and some other publications, and as well as Facebook pages from other districts around Kiwanis. So real quickly, let's talk about what COVID's done to us, and I'll be brief here, but I think it sets the stage for what amazes me about what everybody's been able to do. So first of all, I think the health risks of our members is paramount, key importance, and it has limited the ability of many of our members to continue serving during this period of time. Secondly, schools have not let us in the door, generally speaking, at least not to be with the students. Government restrictions have limited our ability to gather. So even having a simple meeting is a challenge and made very difficult. So consequently, club meetings have often early were suspended, and then we all learned about how to use Zoom and other virtual platforms. And most of our clubs are now meeting in one way or another. I can't count the number of fundraisers that were canceled and how many dollars were lost to our clubs because they could not have public events that were out there, or they did not deem it to be safe to have those events. And then lastly, as a means of support, many of us rely on sponsorships of our neighboring businesses. And in fact, many of them are struggling right now. So those dollars are not as readily available to our clubs. So our clubs have reacted, and they have reacted very positively. And I think I grouped it in 4 different ways that our clubs have been creative. Some have moved events to a virtual platform, or they've modified the way that they held their events. Some have continued their projects, but had to add certain guidance using CDC guidance to make it safe for themselves and for those that are participating. Other clubs have created new service programs, and some have also created brand new events to raise funds for their clubs to help their community. So that's the groupings that I'm going to go through what I learned doing my Facebook searches. Terrific Kids is something so many of our clubs are very involved with. Many of our clubs have multiple schools where we sponsor the Terrific Kids program. And right now we can't go into the schools and present these awards and rulers and pencils and things to the students that have won. And I believe a lot of schools have stopped actually awarding Terrific Kids for the students. So what we found is that there are some that are getting creative. The one that I've displayed here on the screen is a school out in the Lake Norman area, where the principal actually did a YouTube video, and in that video identified the kids that were being recognized, like Logan down there in the bottom right. And he recognized the Kiwanis Club for their sponsorship of the program. And it was really nice because you go through it, he goes through every grade. They've got pictures of each of the kids. So as an idea for your clubs to work with your schools, this is an option. I've also seen where some schools have gone to a Zoom platform or similar platform or Facebook Live, and actually had little ceremonies for Terrific Kids programs. So it is happening out there. It's probably not happening as much as we'd all like it to be. But if you haven't, if your schools are not active in that, you might consider whether they want to try a different platform. Another thing that a lot of our clubs like to do is to work with children on reading. And many of us read to students that are in preschool. We also wind up working with students in the first grade, trying to help them learn to read. And our clubs have taken some different angles at trying to continue to serve that population. The two pictures on each end here from Robinson Lumberton and High Point are the more traditional sorts of ways that you see our members reading to kids on video and then posting those videos either on YouTube or on Facebook. And they can actually watch the video right then. Southport Oak Island, we took a slightly different approach to it, and so that kids could not just listen to our stories, but actually try to read along with us. When we produced our videos, we have the speakers on one side or another, then a picture of the page being presented right along with them. So that way the kid or the child can read along if in fact they are in the first grade and learning to read. Otherwise, they can just look at the pictures and enjoy it. And I'll add that the Southport Oak Island Club has now released 62 videos that where members and members of the community have read. And that was another nice feature to that, was that the police chief and the fire chief, et cetera, also read and were recorded and have been included. So it was a way for us to connect in Southport with some of the local officials. Out in Kernersville, they weren't to be not having their parade, so they had a virtual parade where they said, you go parade around, take some pictures and share those with us. Get on your tricycles and your bicycles and your strollers and share it. So still trying to create a good sense of fun around the 4th of July holiday. Out in Apex, they wanted to make some mats for the homeless. And yes, those are recycle or recyclable plastic bags that we all get at the grocery store tied together. Now, what you see on the picture on the right is in fact that they were working together. Hang on a second. No, don't know what that was. They were working together to do this, to make sure each of them knew how to do it. So they were working on a Zoom call to work together. So maybe you don't want to make mats, but maybe you want to do something else like that. And why not share the time with other club members? A fundraiser in Southport that they typically do is a concert. I have a band that get the community center nearby, and people come and they dance, and so they pay for their tickets. Well, we couldn't do that this year with the restrictions of number of people in a room. So it went outdoors for the first time, and partnered with the airport near us here in Cape Fear Regional Jetport, and set up that the cars could come in, park out on the field. The band was set up, got a tent there for them, and it was a nice evening. We charged more actually for this than we did for when people were coming in person to the community center. So still a successful fundraiser. It felt different, but it was fun. And at that point, everybody was anxious to go out and do something. And I'm talking about the people that were attending. So we didn't have a hard sell on getting people to show up. I can't count the number of pancake days that got canceled this year, or pancake weeks. But some of our clubs said, well, let's have some fun with that. Let's be creative. Let's have people still make contributions to the club around a pancake theme. And by doing so, they had people send in pictures. They'd had different, I think it was the Tryon Club had a different theme each day that they talked about on their Facebook page. So maybe this time you have blueberry pancakes and tomorrow you have something else on your pancakes. and send us pictures, and we'll have some fun with it. And they raised funds that way. Ashboro did a whole week asking you to send pictures of yourself while in fact you were eating pancakes. So keeping the pancake theme, having some money being raised in a way that was non-traditional. Eden actually did cook their pancakes, but nobody ate them in the hall. They drove through and picked them up. So I think they're not the only club that did that, but I thought some good pictures from their Facebook page to really show how that worked for them in Eden. North Brunswick, I thought, had a great idea. Everybody likes to drink a little bit of wine every now and then, or at least most people do. Wine tastings are very popular, and I see some wine out there on the screen. So what they did there was a virtual wine tasting. They partnered with a wine shop in their community. And as you can see in the center there, they set up bags for everyone, the wine, and there's some food to be paired with the wine in those bags. And the people that participated and paid their fee, they were able to come into the shop, pick them up, and then go home. And then the people that were experts on the wine and the food pairings did a Zoom call with everyone so that they could, in fact, still enjoy the idea of a wine tasting and get the benefit from it. In East Cooper, Mount Pleasant, they always partner each year with other local charities, as you can see in that picture on the right, to do a fun run. Well, this year it was virtual. So you could still run, but you weren't running with everybody else. You still paid a fee and participated. I think what this all illustrates is that the folks that support us on a regular basis understand that we aren't able to do all the things that we would like to do, but in fact are still willing to give us money and try to play along and get us through this difficult time. Out in Lee County, they always do this big reverse raffle. Well, this year they still did their raffle, sold their tickets. But the big deal about a reverse raffle is watching the items being drawn, the tickets being drawn, and put on the board. And oftentimes there's more than one winner. So, if you're the 50th drawn or you're the 100th drawn, you get a prize, and then the biggest prize goes to the last drawn. Well, the way they did it this year is that they broadcast that live on Facebook. And they also had a Zoom link available that you could watch as the drawing was conducted. These throws out in Kershaw County are typically sold, but not always online. So this year they found a way to do their sales through an online sale. It's kind of an Afghan sort of item. And coming up in February, and still scheduled, is in Bluffton in South Carolina, an annual antique appraisal and silent auction. Now this year, the silent auction is going to be virtual. It's going to be online. But the antiques appraisal is still going to happen in person. They will be limiting the number of people. Everybody be wearing their masks and doing all those sorts of things. But still, the fundraiser is scheduled to proceed in February. Hopefully things don't get worse and they're able to do it. But they at least have taken their auction items and they're going to have that on an online basis. So getting on to modifications and doing things that we as Kiwanians like to do, find important to do, but have to do a little bit differently. And in many cases throughout the district, I found clubs addressing food insecurity, having clothing drives. These are a couple. I'll show you a few more as we go through. You can see our group from North Brunswick. In Uptown Charlotte, they helped with a food bank distribution. Raleigh had one of its more successful ever collections from their club members to address food security in Wake County, helping the urban ministry out there. Books and dictionaries are still needed by students, whether they're in the classroom or they're working at home. Maybe even more so if they're working at home. And our clubs have continued to provide books and dictionaries throughout the district. Listing here Lake Norman, Waynesville, Bluffton, Aiken, and you can see in most of these cases that our Kiwanians are masked up. Now, they didn't get to see the smiles on the kids' faces, gather with them, maybe read one of the books that they bought, but they're still doing the job of delivering the needed resources to these schools. School supplies needed everywhere, again, with kids working at home and not having access to what's available in the classroom on a regular basis. These school supplies drives were very important throughout the district. Some held them for the first time, like Shallotte SBI, where you can't see it there, but Hank's got a mask on and waving people in, asking them to either drop off some money or some notebooks or pencils. The folks in Bluffton gathered, and you can see there's more than just school supplies in their drive, but that was their primary focus. And up in Charleston, they had specific items that were identified by the school, and that's what they worked on collecting. Continuing on the theme of school supplies and backpacks, Asheville, you can see the delivery of a backpack there to a lucky student, both who were masked up. Anger, Darlington, oops. There we go. Sorry. Kernersville. What I wanted to mention specifically on Kernersville that I was impressed with was that they were collecting the supplies, or they were happy to take funds. And they provided right on their Facebook page this wonderful QR code that people could take their phone and use PayPal and do it that way to make a contribution. So if you got anybody in your club that's got the tech skills, that might be an interesting way to make use of them. In Tryon, again, still working with the Girl Scouts. Here they're working on building some shelves. It's one of the Kiwanis members there on the right. The Wilmington Club, instead of having a meeting, one of their meetings during the month, they are in fact collecting cereal at the place where they normally have their meeting. The neat thing about this is that the members still get to see each other physically, as opposed to just on Zoom. So they drive through, they drop off their cereal, it's collected, taken to a food pantry. But there gets to be a little bit of fellowship as well between the members. And in Elizabethtown, where they actually have started to meet once a month, when they have their meetings, they've done this food drive there for a local food pantry. Thanksgiving, a time that we often focus on providing dinners and meals to those that are less fortunate, looked different this year. Instead of packing dinners or providing them necessarily in a hall for folks, in these three situations, you can see where the food was packed outdoors in boxes and then distributed using other charities and working together with other organizations in their areas. So hats off to each of these clubs for the work that they were doing, and doing it outside, wearing their masks, as you can see in the pictures. More food and clothing drives out in Fayetteville. Not only were they collecting specific items of food and clothing, they also provided some financial support to the one particular food bank that's mentioned there. A couple of our clubs have giving gardens, and these are not necessarily where they started during COVID times, but they certainly help fill the need in the community for fresh vegetables. And it was a situation where, being outdoors, the members were able to socially distance and still work those gardens and provide assistance that was needed in the food pantries. Food insecurity is a theme you'll see throughout that our clubs have still been able to address. It's not hands-on necessarily with the kids as we like to do on a normal basis, but we're still providing very important services that support those children and their families. In Bluffton, one of their annual events is to collect stuffed toys, which are given to the sheriff's department. So the sheriff's deputies have these in the trunks of their car. If they're dealing with a distressed child situation, it gives them something they can help to try to soothe the child. And again, they in this case, they put boxes in certain stores to collect those items and pick those up. So there maybe wasn't the personal touch of collecting these, but they were still out there collecting them and provided them to their sheriff's department. Down in Conway, they were still selling concessions at high school football game once they started playing again. And you can see the members there were masked up, trying to work that food concession to support their folks. And a lot of times in those food concessions, there's a cut of those profits that go to the charity that's actually working the stand. And not to be denied their centennial project, High Point proceeded on to dedicate their new playground, celebrating their 100th year as a club here in the Kiwanis. And I would be remiss if I didn't say happy birthday to all of our Carolina Kiwanians, because we are 101 today, Governor Chris? I think today is our 101st birthday. Happy birthday to all of you. But High Point celebrated with their playground. You can see the folks there during the ceremony still had their masks on and keeping social distance between folks, but very proud of them to continue and wrap up that project in difficult times. Let's talk about some new service programs. And here we're looking at something the North Brunswick Club did. They talked to their schools, and this was at really in the early parts of virtual learning for our students when it had never happened before. And the teachers were looking for ways to encourage the kids to do their work and to be good online and those sorts of things. And they came up with the idea to give awards to kids or to give incentive bags if the kids were doing what they needed to do. And what I really liked about it was in that center picture, you can see the personal notes that members of the Kiwanis Club wrote. It's got the Kiwanis sticker on there, branding this project for the club, and what a great idea to reward the kids for doing what they needed to do and never had to do before. Of course, soup kitchens and places like that, they're mostly indoors. Well, out in Lake Norman, they had a soup kitchen that wanted to set up some outdoor seating so that they could continue to serve during these difficult times. And the Lake Norman Club was there to help them assemble their furniture. Going back to North Brunswick, working hard to appreciate the teachers. And this is a program that I think a lot of us could do on the go forward. Breakfast or a lunch. The kids weren't necessarily there in the schools, but the teachers were there working hard, again, doing something they never had to do and probably weren't trained to do. And it's nice for them to know that you as Kiwanis clubs are still there to support them in this new role that they found themselves in. North Brunswick also got a request specific to having guitars, picking up used guitars, and they collected a bunch of those and provided them to the music classes. And throughout North and South Carolina, I found that there are a lot of clubs that maybe these weren't new programs for them, but in some cases I believe they were, but an opportunity to work together with their fellow Kiwanians and get out and do something for the community. Lots of road cleanup programs or projects. Georgetown, of course, is the Adopt a Highway, so I suspect they've been doing that for a while, but they were out in Bluffton and Cape Fear as well. Over in Onslow County here, working on not only roadside, but doing some flower bed cleanup. You can see most everybody's masked up and keeping some distance. In Apex, working with their Key Club, I believe. They were out there on a Adopt the Park and the highway, not just doing the road, but cleaning up in the park. In Smithfield, they here had were asked to build in a public park an herb garden. And for the purpose that I've noted here, for giving kids a new place to learn, and they did that. And of course, it was all done during the COVID period. Folks at the dedication were masked up, and you can see the work that was done by the group there. Waynesville, adding some coloring books and some other activities for the kids to work on when food was being sent home on the weekly food distribution that some of the kids out there were getting. They got their Kiwanis coloring book and some crayons and things to be able to, again, give the kids something extra to keep them going. In Apex, they were writing and making their very own get well cards for folks that were in the hospital. And that way the hospital can distribute those as needed to patients, just to brighten their day. In Monk's Corner, they worked with one of the local high schools there, and they raised the funds so that yard signs, which had pictures of the graduating seniors, could be celebrated. So they charged $20. So they did a fundraiser to go with it. They did this mostly online, I believe, raising money to buy those posters that were out with each of the graduating seniors' pictures on them. So pretty nice event. So some new fundraisers. I'll talk first about, there was a virtual raffle out in Lake Norman. I'm sure that didn't used to be virtual, but that was the approach taken this year. In Southport Oak Island, they had a golf tournament for years, and many golf tournaments, I'll say as well, did continue to be held. Many were canceled, but some were held with fewer participants because they only were allowing one person per golf cart. So that the club was more restricted in the number of folks that could participate. But the Southport Oak Island Club followed a model that we had seen from the First Tee in Brunswick County, where they did a virtual golf tournament. So people would pay $25 to participate, and that's the money that the club raised. They then would go off with their foursome, and they would play that round of golf at any course in the county. And then they would submit their score online. And as usual, the club collected prizes by getting other golf courses to contribute foursomes that the winners would be able to go play golf for free at those places. And I think the only cost associated with this tournament was the website, which I think was $350. I see Don Halbert on the call here. If I'm right, I think it was $350 to pay to do all the registration work for us. We just had to get the website address out. Don, have I got that right?
It was actually less than that. I think it was 199 or something like that. It was not even 350.
Right. So a very reasonable flat rate, as I recall, and they raised a good amount of money. We actually were able to. You don't have to limit your number of golfers when you do a virtual tournament, because they can play at any time they want. We gave them a 1-week window to play their round of golf anywhere in that week, and individuals could play more than once with different foursomes if they so chose. So it was a pretty successful event there. Out in Hendersonville, where the Pancake and Apple Day or festival was looking very different this year. They, in fact, gave away an apple and pancake breakfast. They gave you the fixins to make your pancakes and the normal apple, I suppose, that they got. And so, as you can see, they were still collecting some funds there in the middle. So while it was a giveaway, as oftentimes you still put the bucket out and people are still supporting you and trying to help your club survive. A couple of clubs that had to cancel their fundraisers said, well, let's just ask people to give us money then. And Wilmington set up a GoFundMe page. They've had this pancake breakfast for a lot of years. They couldn't do it. They always sell lots and lots of tickets. Thousands of tickets are sold to that pancake breakfast. So this year they said, we can't have it. Could you maybe still buy give us the money you would have spent on the ticket? And people did. In Onslow County, they had the no fry chicken fry. So there was no chicken involved. Just please support us like you usually do. And they did set up a funding page as well. They talk about new events and being current with the times. Let's make some face masks and sell them. So you can see that in Uptown Charlotte over on the left there. Waynesville had theirs printed out with the Kiwanis logo on them. The coffee filter, I thought that was pretty clever. But in fact, those were then sold in stores in their community. And then, so a portion of those proceeds is obviously supporting their Kiwanis Club. On the face mask theme in Bluffton, they had a crazy face mask contest. Go out there and do something crazy, take a picture, send it in along with $5, and we'll post these pictures and we'll have some fun with it. So again, taking a bad situation and trying to make it fun. I like this one too. This is in Sanford. In order to recognize all the work that's being done by so many public officials out there, these signs, we call them T marker signs or whatever, but what they did is they're thank you hero signs. And they charged, I think, $25 to an individual to buy these, to be able to put them out on their lawn and publicly be thanking those in the community that were out there working, the essential workers, if you will. And I like that it was nicely branded with their Kiwanis Club logo. And then they took those funds and used that to support their local food bank. So again, a pretty neat way to raise money for a specific purpose. But at the same time, you're doing a nice thing to recognize the essential workers that have meant so much to our communities over this past 10 months. Some of us have gotten into the candy and nut selling business using a website here, this Terry Lynn products I found in 2 different clubs, Clemens and in Northwest Guilford. So there's a portion of every sale was going then to support the Kiwanis Club. So obviously they were promoting it on Facebook, but I'm sure their members were promoting it through telephone calls and emails to their friends to try to get people to buy these products. I'm not familiar with the Terry Lynn product myself, so I can't espouse how good they are, but I'm sure they're wonderful. And it's great to see some ingenuity. These, I believe, are in both cases new fundraisers for the clubs. In Ruffton, where they would normally have an auction each year, this year they did a tag sale. So they collected these items. I presume they would normally have had a fun time and auctioning things off, but this time it looks more like a sale outside of a storage unit. And in fact, they raised their funds that way. Georgetown created a game. This, I believe, was started before the pandemic, but it was not finished until we were in the midst of it. And in fact, this Opoly idea, I've seen that in 3 clubs now for their local community, where you sell to businesses in the community the squares on the Opoly board. You can also sell, as you see here, pictures in the center of the board, which you can charge a little bit more for. And then the games are produced. So the club makes its money off of the sale of the squares. And then the games are produced by a company that has a deal with Milton Bradley that allows them to use the Opoly name. And then the games are typically sold to those that had sponsored spots on the board. They're sold at cost. So there's no issue for that. And then they can sell them for whatever they want or give them to clients or customers or however they want to dispose of those games. But there is a minimum order required. It's a couple hundred games, I believe, that you have to use as a baseline. But that's out there. And I got to tell you, Kiwanians love the holidays. They love Christmas. And the number of projects really, really took off around Christmas time. And I'm going to go through a few of those because not that they're specific to Christmas, but they address needs in the community that a lot of us only focus on at Christmas, but maybe we could be focused on at other times in terms of giving service. In Black Mountain, Swannanoa, you see the Deck the Tree fundraiser where their club decorated a tree. People vote on trees by putting money in the boxes, and those funds are going off to support. In this case, it was a fuel fund. Over in Salisbury, providing Christmas dinners to kids that normally get backpack meals on the weekends. So they packed food there. And again, working in these cases with other organizations. It's not our own project, but it is working with other community organizations. Black Mountain Swannanoa is well known for their thrift store, but it's been closed. But for the holidays, they were able to do some parking lot sales. So good for them to get out and still make some sales. In Charlotte, we see baskets of food and household goods for a specific elementary school that's in their area that they provided. In Matthews, they did a Tiny Tim tree. It's kind of like the angel tree idea. They're called a Tiny Tim tree, but they collected an enormous amount of gifts, foodstuffs, as well as bicycles for the kids in that area. More angel trees out in Spring Lake and Hampstead. Raleigh got a request from a specific school, and in lieu of doing an angel tree, you know, they made a pretty substantial contribution to support that particular school. Pembroke worked on an angel tree program. Wilson All-American, same thing. Out in Aden-Grifton, they provided some holiday fruit and candy bags for folks that were in assisted living. And in Washington, they were not to be denied their parade, but instead of the parade walking by the people, it was done differently. They have a partnership with the city there. The parade people, the people that would be performing, would be in one place, and they let people walk by, socially distanced, masked, and do all those things for that parade to still happen. In Conway, they did a couple of projects. One was a Shop with Cop, which many of us have heard of. They did another one, Operation Christmas Child, and you can see the members working together, you know, using their equipment to protect themselves and box those things up for the kids. East Cooper Mount Pleasant did a couple of projects at the holiday time as well. Again, food and clothing distributions. They work with other not-for-profits in their community. They did a drive-through this year for dropping off the items. But they also did some socially distanced Christmas carolings at a boys' home in their community. You can see the distance between the carolers, and it was outside while the boys were in the, looks like some stands that were set up there. Florence, you can see members, they were having a meeting in person. I presume they took their masks off for the picture. But in fact, they prepared Christmas cards for seniors and Terrific Kids. So they have their Terrific Kids program still working and providing a Christmas card to those kids for that time. Bluffton, you see a charity toy distribution that they volunteered at. Winter coats were collected at Crystal Coast through a drive. They had a drop-off location that people could bring them to. And in the Topsail, who has done the wreath sale for years, this year they were a delivery service. So you could still buy your wreath, but they would actually deliver it to you this year. And here's an idea that Charlotte, South Brunswick Islands has done for Christmas, but is now planning to do at least 2 more times during the year. It's a reverse Advent calendar. Advent calendars typically work that every day in Advent, you open the calendar box and you get a gift. Well, instead of getting something here, the members were putting a piece of food, a particular item of food, into a box that was then collected on a particular date, delivered and shared with 3 different food pantries in the area. This is one of those projects that has legs in terms of being able to work throughout the year. And what they found was that people were very happy to participate in this other than just the members of the club. So they're trying to expand that now, having a drive during the Lenten season and then doing Christmas in July, where they will plan to have specific food items identified, working with the food pantries this time to determine specifically what they need the most, and having folks collect that food and then it'll be delivered. Pretty cool project. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the bell ringing. There were lots of Salvation Army bell ringers out there. I've got pictures of several of them here. I really like the Twin City Winston-Salem jacket. I think that was a nice touch. And there's a few more still ringing. The bottom right there, Charles was actually, there's a video of him, which I took this picture from. That's the only thing that didn't come from a Facebook page. But Charles was out there being interviewed and giving a really good plug for Kiwanis and the work that we do for kids. And I have to mention Cindy Bryant in Division 26 and the Boys and Girls Home, where so many of our clubs typically do some kind of an event around Christmas time, but nobody could go on campus in a normal way or be in the cabins with the boys or the girls. But she organized, working with the folks out there, a parade. We had 8 clubs or 7 clubs, I forget, in Division 26 gathered. Governor Chris came out and they did a parade and they brought gifts for the kids that were given to the folks there at the Boys and Girls Home for distribution. So quite an event. And thank you, Cindy, for making that happen. So that's what I've collected from around the Carolinas. And I'll share a few things about things I've found going around the Kiwanis world as well. Don't forget the Kiwanis Children's Fund is still there. They have matched local funds for grants to food pantries and groceries for needy families. We have clubs out there that have been buying and then contributing PPP for first responders and health centers. We've got clubs that have assembled hospital busy bags to support patients and families. They're kind of stuck in hospitals. You know, visitation is very limited, if at all. So it gives the patients something that they can work on, not necessarily COVID patients, but other patients in the hospital as well. Still assembling chemo care bags or kits for patients and families. Assembling care packages for the homeless. Club's doing that. Making no-sew blankets for shelters. It's interesting. I didn't know what a no-sew blanket was until about 2 years ago when we had Florence come through, and we had key clubs that were making these no-sew blankets that were shared with folks out in the Lumberton area. And they were very, very warmly received by the folks out there. We've had clubs in the last 10 months doing greeting cards. You saw some of that in the Carolinas as well. Doing placemats for long-term care patients. Some are doing it for Meals on Wheels patients. Setting up book stations and laundromats. If we can't get to the kids another way, they're setting up some spots in common areas where kids may gather with their folks to make those books available. At Halloween time, some clubs, knowing that kids couldn't go out and trick or treat in the normal way, prepared candy bags and figured out a way to get them distributed. And then doing some drive-through diaper and baby supply drives for young moms is also something I've seen that's going on throughout the district, or throughout the Kiwanis world, rather. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. It's really exciting to see it. I think, but I know that these service projects and fundraisers are really probably the tip of the iceberg, because not all clubs have a Facebook page. Not all of them put everything out on their Facebook page. But this is what I found. And I know that, as I said, there's many more out there that would inspire you if in fact you were able to learn that. So I think we've got a few minutes available. If there's anybody on the call that would like to share some things that their club are doing, let me stop my screen share. Leah, do we have anything in chat, first of all?
No, nothing has come through with chat.
Okay. Does anybody have any other projects, fundraising or service that you could share with the group? I see Ann Klein has her hand up down there. Hello, Ann.
Hi. We just this week decided we're going to do not the no sweat spelling bee, but the absolutely no sweat spelling bee, and ask people to donate the money they would have used for the game, you know, in person, but just virtually, of course.
Right.
But we're just getting that around.
So it's
and
no sweat because there's no way they can spell it wrong.
That's right. So we're not actually, you know, doing a virtual spelling bee, just asking if the people that were on the teams last year could donate this year, since we haven't had any fundraising other than the masks, and we're making money now on that. So
Great. Great. Well, thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you for all you're doing.
Appreciate it.
Did I see another hand go up? Andy, I think.
Yes, sir. So Andy Srinivasan here. So my club is we're in Clayton, North Carolina. So what we're doing is in February, we're working with St. Baldrick's to raise money for their children's cancer research. So basically what it is, I myself am a teacher at the school, and so for about the past year, I have not had a haircut. So I've got lots of hair. So I have this big old, huge amount of hair. And so what the kids are going to do is, starting February 1st, they're going to, and it's us partnering with our one of our key clubs over here at Corinth Holders High School. And one of our students is actually the lieutenant governor for Division 14. So he's going to try to reach out to all the other clubs around here and say, hey, just put it out on social media, call your friends, let them know. Here's the website. St. Baldrick's does this all the time. So they have everything up front. We just sign up for it. We put our club name in there, and the key club that we're working with. And so we're not having to keep track of it. They'll just donate right to the site. And then, so we're going to go 1st of February to February 22nd. So that gives us a 3-week window to do the fundraising. And then right after that, sometime in the week of the 22nd is when I'll get all of my hair gone.
Well, thank you, number one, for what you're doing there, but number two, just for being in the trenches and still we're out there teaching. God bless you.
Yes, sir.
Jim.
Yeah, Joe, couple weeks ago, we have what is called Operation Inasmuch here in Fayetteville. It's where a lot of the homeless people come to have breakfast in the morning. And they were closed a couple weeks ago they do it every year for the cleanup and so forth. So we worked out a deal with the Waffle House people. I think they charged us like $2 per plate, and they actually delivered the food to us down at Inasmuch, and we set up outside, and as they came through, we just handed them their breakfast that morning. And
Really?
Very good. Thank you for sharing that. That's a great idea. Curtis.
I would just like to chip in regards to some of the raffles that we do as clubs. As serving as Lieutenant Governor has given me the opportunity to participate with the Kiwanis Club of Lee County, and in the past month with the Kiwanis Club of the Sandhills. I know some people have kind of backed off from doing their raffle and their raffle sales at this point in time, but I would encourage you to think about that. The reason being, our club, we've printed 300 tickets. They're $100 raffle tickets. They're not cheap, but we've done our raffle for 15 years and we have never sold all of our tickets until this year. This year we sold every one of our 300 tickets. There are more people around. There are more of our members are in town right now. You know, some of them go away during the holidays and during Christmas or during winter. And the same thing is true of the club in Lee County. They sold all their tickets for their raffle this year. And so we've had pretty good success with our raffles. And I think part of the reason is COVID. We're all home. We aren't traveling. We haven't spent as much money. And so people who maybe weren't willing to buy a ticket in the past have said, I'll buy a ticket, or I'll maybe even buy two. People who weren't able to help us sell tickets are available to help us sell tickets. And so if you or any of your clubs are, putting that on the back burner or talking about whether delaying or whether or not you should do it, I would encourage you to move forward with any of your raffle activities. Just be safe as you can, try to sell tickets over the internet, over the telephone, and limit your contact with other people, of course, but don't back away from it, because we've had two really successful ones in my division here in the last few months.
Great to hear, Curtis. Thank you for sharing that. Good. Anybody else have something?
Yes, Joe, this is Walt Kinsey with Winston-Salem Twin Cities Kiwanis
Yes,
Club. One thing we just started doing is videotaping our meetings, our regular meetings live. We just couldn't seem to get everybody out because of one thing or another. And we found out one of our senior citizen homes is under total lockdown right now. So we just started last week broadcasting live and continuing to do that with just using one of these and
Right.
putting it out over the air. We do it live on our Facebook page.
Mm-hmm. Facebook Live presentation. Very good. Very good. Do you record it as well, or just do the live presentation?
Our intent is to do both. Last week we didn't do it live only because I forgot to push the right buttons on my phone. But next week we're going to, or tomorrow we're going to do it live, and I hope to get it recorded at the same time.
Great. Great. Good. Well, we've reached our hour.
Actually, Joe, we've had one more question
Oh, okay.
in the chat. One person was wondering if anyone has done a virtual trivia night and how they organized it. I haven't seen one of those yet, but I thought I would ask.
I guess it's new ground to be tried.
Yes.
Good idea, though.
Yeah, this is Chris with Columbia Kiwanis in Columbia, South Carolina. Those are very popular here right now. There's a lot of them online with our museums and other venues where they're just trying to bring people together. And there's a small fee. Sometimes it's free.
Great.
But it depends on the venue that's offering them as to what kind of trivia questions they ask. If it's music, it's music. If it's a museum, it's something about what's going on at the museum. So it's a variety of things that you could do with that trivia.
Yeah, I'll bet if you Googled that online trivia contest, there's probably some how-tos out there as well. So
Yeah.
really good idea.
Yeah, Joe, back at over at Christmas, the Hope Mills Club did something similar to that. They had an ugly sweater party plus trivia, and they kind of combined it together. So
Right.
they did do that.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Any other questions there, Leah?
That would be all.
Wait a minute.
Oh, we have a
Brian
question
has
with
hand up.
Brian.
I got
Yes,
Brian.
this is more or less directed to both Joe and Chris. I'm thinking outside the box a little bit, fast forwarding to April. April is the month of the military child celebration. So I'm just trying to just think outside the box to see kind of, we got a couple months, but we know we won't be able to have it like we normally do. So maybe we can try to come up with something, especially with like what the other clubs is doing as well, because like I said, due to COVID, we won't be able to have it this year again. So this would be 2 years in a row. So just thinking out loud, you know, kind of putting our heads together to think what can we do to represent the military child kids. So
Okay, what
that's all
club
I
are
have.
you with, Brian?
Sandhills.
Sandhills.
I think if you'll start Brian, just a conversation about that with Curtis, and kind of since Curtis is your lieutenant governor and in your club, kind of get the details about it, and then I would suggest that perhaps Curtis send an email to the exec, to Joe and to me and Leah and John Hathcox and Elizabeth, and we'll be glad to kind of brainstorm a little bit and see perhaps if we might get back to y'all with some suggestions.
Okay.
And we would be glad to try to think of some things that we might be able to do. I want to thank everybody for being with us tonight. First of all, let's all give Joe Crostick a fabulous round of applause here. I mean, this is fabulous. He checked the Facebook pages for 100 Kiwanis clubs and put together this presentation for y'all. And we have 43 on this call tonight, which is many members or more than we have had for some in-person club coaching a day. So this was fabulous. I want to thank y'all for joining us. These webinars have taken the place of our club coaching events this year because of COVID-19. This is the 8th one we've had. We started in October. Leah did one working with club secretaries. Leah and Elizabeth did one working with club treasurers. We had on October 20, Mary Winfrey did one on how to have a virtual membership drive, where she took us through step by step how the Kiwanis Club of Robertson County, Robertson-Lumberton had a virtual membership drive and recruited 10 new members. That webinar, just like the one tonight, is on our Carolinas District website, where you could go to our website, carolinakiwanis.org, and go to the resources tab. There is the Zoom library there, the webinar library, and you can watch it and get an idea on how to do a virtual membership drive. We've had one on youth protection guidelines, one on COVID-19 liability and Kiwanis guidelines on COVID-19. We've had one on Facebook 101. We've had one on Adopt a School, our district's service initiative for this year, and then Joe's today. Our next webinar is next week, January 19. Mary Winfrey will present a webinar on membership engagement. Again, they're all free. You just need to go to the Carolinas District website or to CD News to register. We want to thank all of you for being with us tonight. It's heartwarming to see all the service that Carolina's Kiwanis clubs have done this year during COVID-19, where we've had to adapt to change. And as Joe mentioned earlier, today is the 101st birthday of the Carolinas district. Happy birthday to all of us. Leah, do you have anything you'd like to add before we sign off?
I just want to thank everybody for being here and thank you for being a light for our world right now and for the Carolinas. And thank you for being a Kiwanian and helping the children of the world.
Now more than ever, thank you, Leah. Now more than ever, kids need Kiwanis, communities need Kiwanis, Kiwanis needs Kiwanians. Thank you for all you do. And let's have a great 2020-21. Good night, everybody. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Governor-elect Joe. Awesome.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Good night.